we are very happy to organize the One Talk. The One Talk features leaders from various segments of the market, from book selling, publishing, global capital, librarianship, to employability. Today, we are very lucky to have a very strong panel of professors and leaders in the employability field to talk about the very topic on producing employable grads. So welcome everybody. My special thanks to Prof. Khairuddin, Professor Dr. Khairuddin for coming all the way from Sarawak, Prof. Mushtaq for joining us, and David from flying in from Singapore, Dr. Bruce Lim for coming all the way too, and also our friend, the president of Rotary Club, KL Dynamics, for joining us. Hopefully Rotary Club can get a lot of banks to sponsor a lot of learning programs for the education community here. So a very warm welcome. All right, we have one more speaker who is supposed to join us, but he couldn't get a flight back on time from the US, but he has kindly sent his recorded video. That is Chor Meng from Wiley and the Forbes Asia Committee. So we will start with a short 5 minutes presentation from Chor Meng first, then I will invite the panel speakers to be on the stage to deliver their presentation address. All right, thank you very much. So David can play Chor Meng's video.
What does it mean to the supply of education? What can we do to improve employability and bridge education to jobs and long-term career success? I will discuss these questions and provide my recommendations to various stakeholders in this 5 minutes video. Education and training, skills and jobs are interrelated, but distinct issues. Education and training seek to provide learners with job opportunities. Jobs, on the other hand, are demand-driven and responsive to global macroeconomic trends and market needs. In a study we conducted last year involving 600 human resource professionals across a variety of industries, we found that 55% of the respondents believe that there is a skills gap in the organization. And this is driven by the mismatch between the supply and demand of talents. Employers reported that the most challenging skills to fill include computer technology, data analysis, and hard communication skills. They also told us that they need soft skills such as critical thinking, communication, and creativity. So how does Malaysia compare with the rest of the world? Wiley created the Digital Skills Gap Index. It ranks 134 economies based on a host of global indicators that reflect how prepared an economy is when engaging the digital skills for sustained growth and prosperity. I have selected a few relevant indicators to producing employable graduates to show you how Malaysia fares in these indicators. So who is Wiley? Wiley is a global research and education company with over 2 centuries of track record in helping to bridge the skills gap by connecting education to career outcomes. My name is Chor Meng. Thank you for having me today. I lead Wiley's education business in Asia. I serve as a board member of Singapore Manufacturing Federation Center for Corporate Learning, as well as Copyright Licensing and Administration Society. I'm also a council member with Forbes. As you plan for the future, it is important to understand the major drivers which are shaping the employability of graduates fundamental to it is that jobs and skills are changing due to rapid technological changes and shorter innovation cycle. This means that knowledge and skills students learn in school will become obsolete faster than ever before. What can we do about it? I am putting 4 recommendations for debate today. First, bring employers and educators closer together and align the curriculum to industry needs. In this way, graduates become more employable as they graduate with the skills that are more closely needed by the employers. As an example, Wiley co-chaired APEC, closing the Digital Skills Gap Forum, and created a global advisory group consisting of business, government, and academic leaders to jointly develop a set of competencies for digital skills. Second, provide interdisciplinary learning with individualized major or second major. Universities can equip future graduates to look beyond the boundaries of a single discipline, enabling them to make bold pivot to the new realities of an ever-changing world. Third, help students develop deep academic skills in quantitative discipline beyond knowledge. At Wiley, our adaptive and discipline-specific learning technologies provide skills-based mastery. I can share research and white papers to demonstrate learning gains if you are interested with how we do it. Finally, provide data, tools, and indicators that identify opportunities to close the skills gap. For example, Wiley Digital Skills Gap Index is a resource to help policymakers, educators, and employers bridge the digital skills divide. Terima kasih. Thank you. Thank you for having me today. I value this opportunity to speak to you directly. I'm sure you'll find this session valuable, especially with Professor Dr. Khairuddin as your moderator, and with Professor Mustaq, David, and Dr. Bruce as your distinguished panelists. Feel free to connect or follow me on LinkedIn.
Okay, thank you to Chomeng for sharing. Now I would like to invite the panel up on stage one by one. But then again, I won't actually read all your CVs because by the time I read your CVs, the session will be over because all of you are number 1 in your segment. So firstly, Professor Dr. Khairuddin, please come on stage. Prof. Mustaq, right? Yep. Mr. David Yo. Dr. Bruce Lim. All right, guys. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next presentation by Prof. Mustaq. David, can we get the slide ready? We welcome Prof. Mustaq.
Thank you very much. It's really exciting to be here. This is the first time in my life I give a talk in a mall. So I think that's... well, I'm sure the Prime Minister will speak anyway. Yes. Thank you very much. Terima kasih. Thank you. I love you too. Yeah, thanks. My name is Mushtaq Al-Attabi and I'm from Heriot-Watt University. This is our campus in Putrajaya. It's really a topic that's very close to my heart to speak about employability. I actually don't want to speak only about employability. I want to speak about getting people to be fit, to be ready for the future. Getting a job is very important. It's only one part of success in life. There are other elements of success, and I will try to talk about that shortly. Okay. Okay, so I'm a teacher, I'm a professor, so I can only teach, and I have to ask question. This picture was taken maybe 100 years ago at a cigar factory. And you see in the picture, there are people who are rolling cigars, but there is this gentleman sitting very nicely, very well dressed. What do you think his job is? Anyone has an answer? Anyone? What do you think the job of this gentleman is? So people would say supervisor, manager, the owner, and these are great answers, but they are also wrong. This guy, his job is to read the newspaper. He reads the newspaper for these people who are rolling cigars so that he entertains them, and his job is called a lector. Now, this job has disappeared. That's why you don't know about it. And there are many jobs that we have today, we take for granted, they are going to disappear. As a matter of fact, if you, like me, read the reports about how many jobs will be disappearing or being automated, there are many reports, but McKinsey always publish work in that space. And we know that almost 800 million jobs could be lost, with maybe 375 million jobs that has to be changed beyond recognition. So the question to us is, how can we prepare our youth, yourself, your children, your grandchildren, so that they still have a job in the future? And I'm going to share with you a framework to think about human work and the value that people add through their work. You see, personally, I believe that any one of us brings to this world, to this life, including our job, 3 types of capabilities. I call them the 3 labors. It's our physical labor, our capability to move things around, our cognitive labor, our ability to think, and also our emotional labor, our capability to connect with people, to reach out to the people, and also to build trust. We have been on a journey since the beginning of time, trying to replace ourselves with some other form of either technology or animal power kind of resource, so that we do less work. But since we invented the wheel and we invented tools and we domesticated animals, we were able to help ourselves to use less and less of our physical labor. So you see the bit that is being shaded in the graph is the area that we were able to find some other source of either energy or animal powers to do the work on our behalf. But in the first industrial revolution, when we were able to build very good steam engines, we were able to actually replace a lot of the physical, muscular work that human beings used to do with machines. And that was a time of change. Many people lost their jobs, and they had to be retrained. And that was the time where many universities were opened to prepare people to start building their cognitive capabilities, to graduate managers and engineers and accountants. For quite some time, we thought that the value that we bring to life would be always the cognitive bit, until we were able to make a machine to be able to beat human beings at chess. And that's when we knew that our computers could actually be even able to do the cognitive bit, the thinking bit, faster and potentially better than us. Now, the only domain that we as human beings were able to remain superior to machine is the emotional domain. It's our ability to build trust, to connect with people, to communicate, and to act ethically and have a sense of purpose. Because the machines don't have a sense of purpose. A computer doesn't have a sense of purpose. And this is a very important thing. Now, If you listen to, for example, Andy Haldane, who used to be the chief economist of the Bank of England, he's basically saying, for you to be fit for future, you need to focus on building emotional intelligence, building emotional skills rather than just cognitive skills. Only then you'll be prepared for a world where you'll be competing against robots. If you are competing against robots, it's not only building your cognitive and thinking capabilities, because the machine will be able to process data faster than you, will be able to deal with much more data at the same time. Any one of you who uses Waze or use Google to do things for your daily things, you will know that the machine is much better than us in this space. But the machine doesn't have the emotional feeling. So there's one thing that a young person or a teacher or a business leader would do to prepare our youth for such a future. What would that be? Personally, I believe that education should focus on building 5 types of capital. The first one, as Keith said, is the human capital. The human capital is about the knowledge. We have this book fair, people buying books and learning and building skills, and that's extremely important. We want also to get young people, and all of us actually, to build our social capital, the network of people who believe in us and who can help us achieve our goals. We also need to build our emotional capital. It's the capability, or our capability, to understand the role of emotions in decision making and how life goes on, and also our ability to remain resilient when things are difficult. We also need to build and grow the natural capital, which is the environment that we need to take care of, and finally the economic capital, our capability to deal with money and to grow our finances and basically get the enough financial resources so that we can achieve our goals. At the center of all of that, we need a deep sense of purpose. So people need to focus on thinking what brings meaning to their life and what is the purpose of their existence. And then, and only then, we can achieve success and we can achieve positive impact on the world, and then we have flourishing. So at my university, when our students start their journey with us, we actually put them through a program so that they develop what we call an impact statement. And an impact statement is a statement of helping them identify what is their purpose. For example, chemical engineering students, if you ask them, what are you doing in this university? They will tell you something like that. Before I graduate, I'm working on a project to plant 1 million trees, because these 1 million trees will remove 100,000 tons of CO2 from the atmosphere. And I'm also doing chemical engineering. So we want the students to focus on what brings sense of purpose and meaning to their life first, and then on their degree later, because only when someone knows why they exist here and why they are doing what they are doing, they will be able to do it in a great way. I will end up by saying, Mark Twain said, there are the 2 most important days in your life. It's the day you are born and the day you know why. And I think it's high time for education to focus on purpose-driven life. I call this purpose-led education. But it's also purpose-led leadership and also purpose-led business, and ultimately it's a purpose-led drive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Ustad. We'd like to, before David present, we're going to play your video first. All right? interesting. So, David, we welcome you. You want to
Mic.
use the lectern or
That's mic.
freestyle?
Freestyle.
Freestyle,
Okay. After the professor, freestyle, I cannot use a lectern. I feel very bad. Okay. When the music was playing so loudly, I thought I should come on stage and start dancing. But anyway, it's going to be a very short presentation. Hello, guys. My name is David. I'm the CEO and founder of Zealand, right, which is a subsidiary of Kaidon, a learning technology company, right? So some quick, it will not take very long in this presentation because when Keith talk about employability, right, which is about finding job, it's really to look into the future, right? What is the job of the future, which I think the professor also talked about, which is it's really about stargazing. Do we know what the future entails? We really don't know. So depending on where you are, if you're a student and you're getting to start a job maybe in the 3 to 4 years time, do you know what the job environment is? You are stargazing. In a sense, some jobs will remain, some jobs will disappear, and excitingly, many new jobs will come up. And it's this part which excites me. Really, when we talk about jobs, it's also about the workplace of the future. What is the workplace of the future? We are familiar with the workplace of the current, what we see around us, how we do our work, whether it is in the shop or in the office or in the retail, wherever you are. Okay, there's a way, there's a mechanism. But I think in the entire COVID era, we kind of experienced a very different way of doing work. Many of us, at least for a short period of time, okay, were actually working remotely. And that kind of exposed us to a new environment. The future of work is indeed different. If you think about it, there's the 3 elements. This doesn't come from me. I'm not a creator of knowledge, so to speak. All right, but it came from Deloitte in one of the reports. It's about who does the work. Okay, the people that do the work are not necessarily the people in the office anymore. Okay, right? The people who are like gig producers. They may not be from Malaysia. The people that work for your company may not be working in the company, may not be an employee of the company, may not be even in the country. Okay, so there are gig workers globally, right? There are full-time, there are part-time, and we can even crowdsource resources, right? So if I want to say, okay, so if I want to know, so many of you use social media, for example, you say, oh, I want to come to this World Trade Center, where's the best place to eat? You crowdsource information, right? You ask in Facebook, oh, where's the best place to eat in World Trade Center? And your friends will all tell you. That is knowledge, which in the past doesn't happen. In the new work environment, that is also the same thing. The creation of product, whether that product is physical or non-physical, is also possibly through crowdsourcing. And so who does the work? Okay, how the work is done? Definitely, we are using less and less manual work, as the professor mentioned, Professor Mushak mentioned earlier on. A lot more AI, robotics, automation. It is part and parcel. All of you got an app, okay, in your phone, okay, called Grab, that you can call a taxi, right? In the past, you have the phone call somebody, and somebody will say, I'll get a cab for you, right? This is not too long ago. It's only about 10 years ago we had to do that. A decade later, the entire cycle of taxi business is completely gone, okay? It is all automated through technology. All you need to do is to press the app on your phone and you can call upon a driver to come to you precisely where you are, to go to precisely where you need to go to without all the middlemen, okay? That is automation, that's robotics, that's AI, okay? When and where work is done is no longer in a 9 to 5. Right, it is in different places. It's fluid. Again, it's remote. Again, it is a shared workspace. Before COVID, I was expanding my workplace. Okay, or I say we need to have more office. We need to have more office. During COVID, of course, all of us work from home. After COVID, my company did not shrink. In fact, my company grew, but my workplace reduced. Right, so my corporate very happy because now I save money. Right, because there's really no need, depending on work. Okay. And increasingly, because we're doing more knowledge type work, there's really no need to come together as often. We still need to come together, I believe that, okay, but not as often. This is in a way a repeat of what was presented because we didn't collaborate on presentation. So maybe the main thing to take away from is increasingly, right, the kind of things that is about physical and manual reducing, basic basic cognitive need computation, they need to do calculation. This kind of thing are reducing in terms of skills. Higher cognitive skills in terms of analysis is increasing, right? Social, emotional skills, as the professor rightly pointed out, will remain and in fact will become even more important. And the part that is important is technological skills. All right, in every job aspect, you have to use technology, even if you are doing F&B, food and beverages. Okay, right. Even if you're doing F&B, you need to do point of sale, right? Okay, right. You need to do technology, you need to do the tablet and be able to take orders. Okay, and even if you don't, your company is not doing that, your boss is not doing that, eventually that will happen because you want to save the number of people at the counter there taking orders. So you increase automation, which means that you need to learn that. Okay. So increasingly, therefore, okay, right, companies, and so I'm talking from a person who is a business owner, okay, and we employ people. So when we employ people, we don't necessarily look at the academic skills anymore, okay. The academic skill, or rather the academic qualification, only forms a foundation or basic of, maybe we should hire him. At least to see, it appears that the person has got some basic requirement, right, to be hired. But that's not the primary thing that I hire people for. I hire people for skills. Do you have the skills to do the work? Okay? And even as you come into the company, do you have the skills to keep the work? Okay? Right? And that's very important. Because even as you join any company, any work, any industry change. Okay? And now the rate of change is increasing rapidly. Right? In the past, maybe the rate of change is every decade. Okay? Things change in the industry. Every decade, every 2 decades. Now, things change every year, every 2 years. Okay? If you are into computing and you want to study cybersecurity, wow, very exciting field. You study cybersecurity this year, next year, the cybersecurity that you study is out of date. You need to be updated because all the viruses are new. All the cyber attacks are new. Okay? And all the new products and services that's developed by all the software developers, all the vendors are also new. And you need to know that, okay? Because otherwise, you cannot apply. Right? So which is basically the thing is about the way that organizations think about employees is about managing your skills, hiring your skills for your skills, making sure that your skills is updated. So depending on the maturity of your employer. Some employer, more mature, bigger, they have the capacity to do proper learning and development, they will do that better. Small and medium company don't have that resource, then you have to take care of it yourself. Really about developing yourself so that you're updated to the skills, right? So that I don't want to go too much into it, okay? But basically, the idea is organizations increasingly are hiring for skills and managing people for skills. Okay, a bit of introduction, right? So I need to talk about my company and since I'm here. Okay, so Zealand is actually is a career agility platform. So our job is to help people be agile, okay? That means you are able to not just do a job, but you're able to maintain your job because you are agile. You're agile when things change, you are flexible, all right? That's the idea. So now we are super app for learning and skills and learning for performance, right? A bit heavy, I'll skip this. I'll go quickly. One of the things that will be interesting and we are promoting is our ability to do skills measurement. Okay, right, skills measurement means that what our platform does is that if you go to our platform, you upload your CV, we will be able to tell you that based on the CV, give you real-time, in-demand skills for every single job in the market. Whether you want to be a data analytics, whether you want to be a product manager, whether you want to be a solar panel engineer, all right? Because we pull real-time data from global HR data. We pull from LinkedIn, we pull from JobStreet, we pull from every single job portal, and we look at the millions and millions of job descriptions, and we say, if you want to be a data analyst, based on the 4,000 job description, these are the skills you need, okay? So that you are hireable, and these are real-time data, okay? And then we present to you, and then we tell you that these are therefore the courses. We give you the courses from world-class experts so that you can be adaptive, okay? Beyond what you have already learned as you move along. All right, that's us. Thank you very much. I'll hand over then.
Thank you, David. That's really interesting. Actually, just from Prof. Mushtaq and David alone, we actually learned so many things. I really love the Prof. Mushtaq slides about the not only human capital, there are so many capital, but then the time is so limited. Actually, we can have one full day lecture on that. We'll invite you again to do a longer one. All right, I'd like to acknowledge some of our special guests who join us over here. Ms. Cassandra Chan, the CEO of Sing Heng Retail Academy, is here. She actually trains several thousand retail, and they are the authority for retail training. And Jonathan Adianto is from Multimatics, right? From Indonesia. They own many public listed company, and I think probably you may have hundreds or thousands of staff. So thank you for joining. Okay, Dr. Bruce, please share with us your insight.
Thank you, Mr. Keith Tong, and good afternoon, my fellow panelists, and ladies and gentlemen. Salam sejahtera. My name is Bruce. I just got here from a post-pandemic corporate visit. I took close to 70 students from UMK, UUM in Sintok, as well as UPM in Serdang, on a series of visits today. And we did one with Sen Heng, Mr. K.H. Lim, I think about 2 months ago. So we visited some really leading edge companies, I would say. One of them is my good friends, Go King Kong, Desmond Ng, in Damansara. And then after that, we went to the Chai Niao in a digital free zone. I just got here direct from Red Q, which is formerly known as Air Asia, now Capital A's headquarters. Now, students were very excited because these companies, when I met them, I met executives that gave me name cards, such as Chief Learning Officer. Another one about compliance, quality improvement, and things like that. These are great practices from great companies. But in reality, I've been with many institutions, with many companies, with SMEs. We don't have this kind of fancy titles for most of our staff. Yeah? SMEs, if you are in manufacturing, below 50, if you are, below 200, if you are in services, below 50 people. Now, if you look at SMEs, it's a huge dichotomy between SMEs and large companies. And SMEs employ 67% of the workforce. So whilst I recognize the presentation given, I find that most SME employers, they don't have the money nor the capital to have chief culture officers. They always have the boss and one right-hand person, the kun kapo, okay, that does everything from payroll, HR, IT, finance. They run everything. So how are we going to change that? You want to change, but the fact of the matter is 67% of people are employed by SMEs, and the SMEs have a certain kind of mindset that I would say that's fixed. It's not growth kind of mindset. Now, with this as a background, and with this post-pandemic situation, I've been speaking to many employers. They say, wow, you're in retail, hospitality, healthcare. They say it's getting more and more difficult to hire people. Why? In catering, F&B, restaurants, they cannot find people. They throw money also cannot. Flexible also cannot. They go into job street, couldn't find. And that's where I realize what we have right now is a kind of a paradox. Young, school leavers, graduates, and you must remember, graduates only form the top echelon. You have got the diploma holders, you have got the TVET holders, and you have got the unskilled. And unskilled, if I'm not mistaken, is less than 70, it's around 60 to 70% of unskilled workers. How are we addressing this? And there is this kind of a paradox. Blue-collar workers, unskilled workers, they have traditional education skills, they have high salary expectation, they have flexible hours, they are mostly Malaysian and local based, available on a cohort basis. Whereas employers, they just want to pay minimum wage. Because if they don't pay you, they can get a foreign worker. So they are heavily reliant on foreign workers. They are available all year round. But the pandemic has cast these employers in a difficult position. They can no longer rely on foreign workers, and they don't have access to local skilled workers. So how are we going to address this thing, this issue? We do not even have industry skills ready workforce. And there's something else I observe, and this is my observation only in 2021. There are three kinds of jobs you can do today. General, you can work for somebody, which means you are in employment. Those days lah, okay, takong lah, you work for someone, you're employed, you receive a monthly salary. Secondly, there's another one called entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship means you work for yourself, you create your own company, you set up, and you're self-employed. And you got an idea, okay? And you want to grow that company. Thirdly, you don't even have a company, you just do a gig. That gig word came from, musicians, entertainers, they got a job. But right now, gig is very synonymous with all the Grab riders and so on. But I'm, of course, overgeneralizing. So there's gig work. Difference between gig and self-employed is self-employed, you have got a platform. You have got your own company. You have got your own LLP. Whereas gig, you use your own name. So whatever you earn is a wage. It goes into your personal account. So these are three general categories. The pandemic has somehow shifted this and created overlaps. And I find that if employers do not move into these areas of overlap, I think you might not be able to find your workforce over there. Traditional employment is no longer sexy to the workforce because they have already spent so much time at home. They don't want to be tied to a 9-to-5 job. I find it so difficult to recruit for my own company. I find it increasingly difficult to retain them. Recruit ada lah. Penjana Kerjaya, Perkeso, all the penjana programs. You can recruit them. But can you retain them? Can you grow them over the long term? Particularly less skilled workforce. So in the absence of automation, remember SMEs have got limited capital. So they don't invest in people, in machinery and automation, going into new markets. So they still traditionally rely on unskilled labor. How are you going to attract these people? They no longer want to be in employment. A couple of decades ago, we heard of intrapreneurship. You say, yeah, you are my employee, but I give you some form of freedom, with your ideas. I think Google also made that sexy. He said 1 day a week, you are allowed to present whatever you want to do, and we can take your idea and the company backs that idea. That's intrapreneurship in quadrant A, but that may not work as well. People want to go out on their own and be free. If you want to be super free, then you are like an artist. When I grew up, I'm always at Central Market. They are like gigs. When they feel like drawing, they draw. When they feel like composing music, they compose. Tak ada ilham, tak buat. So yang ada ilham, ada rezeki. Those are gig. It might be sexy in the beginning, but with gig work, there is no sustainability. No sustainability. So, employment, not sexy. Gig, not that sexy right now. Those days, they say, satu bulan, 3,000 by taking a Grab. Right now, no longer the case. You find that Grab is cutting back. So you've got problems with the gig in terms of sustainability. If it's raining, you can't go out anymore. Now, entrepreneurship is a lonely journey. Not everyone is cut out for entrepreneurship. So you might not also sustain. You get a grant, you get a fund, it might just last you for a couple of months and you run out of the runway and you're gone. Now, how are we going to ensure our young, our new generation is able to sustain, and is able to thrive in this kind of environment? And that is where I would say we need to go in somewhere in quadrant D. We have to go somewhere in quadrant D, and back again to what I'm doing today. I'm involved in Penjana KPT PACE, okay, as well as CAP, Career Advancement Program. We do not promise students employment. So if we can get them employment, it's easy to give them an offer letter, but it's not so easy to sustain them. We don't give them gig jobs, because if we give them gig jobs, it's not sustainable. We don't promise them pure entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurs are sometimes not just born, they need to be guided. You kena ada satu system for this entrepreneurship. That's why companies produce intrapreneurship. This is good. So how do we move into category D? Category D, I would say we need to have a semblance of a structure. We just cannot assume that anyone can be an entrepreneur. You cannot just say, here, take 50,000, take 100,000, start your own business. Kual burger, okay, or do your usually we give them, how to start, business model, the matrix, fill it up, the scrum models, and so. Those are nice academically, but what we need to do is give them guidance. It needs to have a proper structure in a right ecosystem. How do we do that? Sometimes, as a company, you need not employ them. What you need to do is give them an opportunity to make money. So instead of them being your employer and pay them every month, you give them an opportunity to thrive with you. For example, digital marketeer, you don't need to hire an internal digital marketeer. Set up a digital marketing agency, give them that guidance, and you pay them for their services. This is one way to do it. And those guys must be plugged on to an ecosystem that enables them to earn money. And secondly, they must have guidance from a mothership. Okay, that's very, very important. You need to provide them avenues to get business opportunities. And thirdly, the structure must be there in terms of setting up a company, setting up an LLP, money management, and these are crucial aspects in order to reach D. And we find that this D element is more superior to just gig, because gig is too laissez-faire and free. So that is my observation on what we can actually aspire to, as opposed to just the traditional employment, throwing capital at entrepreneurs that have not been proven, young, or leave them be with complete freedom in a gig economy. They have to be structured, they have to be nurtured, they have to be put in a sound ecosystem for them to thrive. And employers can, instead of hiring them, use their services. So that's my insight for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bruce. It's really inspiring. Actually, Dr. Bruce owned many companies. One of the company worth mentioning is JD Mas. JD in China is really huge. They are the largest e-commerce company, bigger than Alibaba many times. And Dr. Bruce is in charge of that, and it's going to be really mega. So now we will move into the Q&A session. I'll hand over the job to Professor Dr. Khairuddin. We shall move our chairs to the center and we'll do the Q&A now.
I have a question. Okay, thank you, Keith. First, I would like to thank the organizer and Keith for inviting me to be the moderator for this session. Thank you to Prof. Mushtaq, David, to Bruce, and also Tan Coming for their insight and sharing of their views about producing employable graduates. Before I pose some question to the panelists, perhaps there are some that I would like to share with audience. Actually, this topic about producing employable graduate is not new. Especially since 30 years ago. When I graduated in 1982 from a local university, I was offered multiple jobs. I received multiple job offers because at that time, not enough workers. But today, graduates are struggling to find jobs. And I also would like to share with you my personal experience, I think to follow up with Dr. Bruce. I come to Kuala Lumpur quite frequent from Sarawak. Sometimes my friend will fetch me, Jalim. Sometimes he's busy, so I have to get a Grab from the airport. And many times when I had conversation with the Grab drivers, in many occasions, these drivers are actually graduates. And I also have my personal experience in my own boy. I sent him to the United States to do finance. In his final year, he quit. He said that I don't think this will help me in my future life. So he came back, he decided to do his own job at the gig thing. And the other extreme, even I think in universities, Prof, there are actually students now, they are earning money before they graduated. So you can see the scenario is actually very complex now. We're not talking about producing employable graduates, actually. We have to understand the scenario. So I think I would like to pose the first question to Prof. Mushtaq. When we're talking about producing employable graduates, is it the sole responsibility of the university, or is it we need the involvement of all the stakeholders? Because this issue will remain many years to come. Besides all the statistics, the information that we have seen earlier, on the ground, we see, especially the government, when we have high unemployment rate, they will always blame the university. So perhaps, Prof. Mushtaq, you can give some insight about this issue, the responsibility of producing employable graduates.
Thanks, Prof. I think the issue ultimately is an issue of value. Are people able to create value or not? I think whether it's in the gig or entrepreneurship or in the employability. Now, I speak to employers, and I know there are many employers who are looking for people to fill the jobs. Not only the low-skilled jobs. They are looking for engineers, they're looking for accountants, they're looking for all sorts of people. And the challenge is the skills that they're requiring people to be creative thinkers, be able to communicate, be able to write in English, to write reports, be able, so there are a whole lot of skills able to motivate themselves when things are difficult. And these are often the skills that the employers are not able to find. So I think I agree, it's definitely not only the job of the university, because ultimately if the students themselves are not motivated to learn and develop these skills, you could do all you want, if they are not motivated to do it. Again, if I start cutting the economy and profit, you're right. I think Heriot-Watt University takes highly motivated, highly academic students and prepare them even to higher paid jobs. And there is the other bit, we talked about the TVET and the diploma and so on. I think if we take any of these segments, ultimately the skills that the employers are looking for, whether in Malaysia or outside Malaysia, are very clear. And the skill gap is also clear. I think this is something that we have to really admit. Now, in the future, maybe if there are as jobs or there is a recession globally or something like that, that's a different story. But currently, I believe anyone who is able to add value will be able, as we say in Malaysia, cari makan. They'll find a way to even buy and sell. And you are right. Some of my students now, they have their own small business on the side, doing it digitally. So I think it's encouraging that variety of capabilities among our youth is really important. That's my view.
Thank you, Prof. Mushtaq. I think I agree with you that I think the student themselves have to make a distinction how to add value to whatever they learn from the university, skill they develop, that they are more competitive outside there. To David, I think you are from Singapore, so maybe we'd like to learn from your experience in Singapore. How do you manage to bring university and industry to work together in bringing the best education ecosystem for the young generation? I think we have been trying this for many years. There's some sign of success. But again, we are always struggling here, especially in Malaysia, to convince the industry that they should come to the university, and the university also should open their doors to the industries. We have been talking about this for a long time, but maybe we can learn something unique or different from Singapore.
Thanks, Prof. I would say that it is still a learning journey. I'm not from the government, so I can't speak for the government, but I can speak from my experience working with the different parties that are involved. And the first issue is recognition. Recognition that there is a problem and there is a challenge. And the challenge is this. The challenge is the world is changing faster and the institutions are able to cope. It's a reality, okay? Right. How is the world changing? The world is changing on two primary direction, okay, or trajectory. The first is definitely on digitalization. That means there's increased use of technology across all sectors, right? So that digitalization accelerates all the transformation that's happening across all sectors, right? As I mentioned earlier on, even your traditional food courts, or rather the food centers, or people selling food, they have to cope with that. Your drivers have to cope with that. So that transformation, that increased digitalization, is hitting the entire economy or entire industry space in a big way. That's the first trajectory. The second trajectory is that there are new industries happening as a result of global changes, all right? So new industries such as sustainability, obviously because of the movement towards being more energy, I would say free, but being able to use energy in a better way, being able to generate energy in different ways because of the way the world changes, being able to even grow agriculture locally and better agriculture because of the things happening globally with Ukraine and things like that we realize there's a lot of struggles. Things that we take for granted are therefore hitting us or in terms of economy and in terms of, I don't think Singapore is isolated. I think it is a global issue, right? So it is these two things that basically adds pressure. It adds pressure on both sides. It adds pressure on the business who needs skilled workers, okay? In terms of skills, that means that these new things that's happening, companies need to transform, need to digitalize, need to change, and therefore they need the workers to be able to change with them. And then the institutions need to generate the workforce, okay, to support this change. And we know that traditional institutions, the change curriculum is traditionally quite slow, right? 2-3 years to change curriculum, right? At least, right? Okay. So that is not fast enough, right? So there is a first recognition that there is a problem, and then because of this recognition, there is a movement from institutions toward workplace, and workplace towards institution is a coming together. I don't think there's a specific formula except for the part that there has to be a big partnership play. Whether the government facilitates it, or whether corporates reach out to the institution, or whether institution reach out to the corporate. Idea here is institution needs to recognize that they're generating workforce for the industry, and institutions needs to be fully connected to industry. And industry needs to know that they require institutions and they need to support the institution. So this new idea of workplace learning came about. Okay, right? It's a very new idea, right, of how do we get students to be doing applied learning in the workplace even when in school. And then corporates must therefore open up their workplace to have the students come in to do applied learning. Okay, right? So this is a fundamental change. I will say that it is something that started when you look at it. They look at the German model and then they kind of have to apply it. I don't think they have the solutions fully out. I'll just say that it is still a learning journey.
Thank you, David. I think very, very important insight about how we must move forward in terms of collaborating between industry and university. Now to Dr. Bruce, I would like to share with you this report by the Statistic Department of Malaysia recently, released in July last year for the labor force in Malaysia in 2020. It says that 4.4 million graduates are employed, and slightly more than 200,000 are employed. And out of these 200,000 unemployed, 30% of them are not very active in looking for jobs. So it is a big number. It's about 60 over 1,000. So sometimes I wonder, they went to universities, they went to colleges, they graduated, and after they finished, they said they are not keen, not interested to find jobs. Perhaps through your experience in Penjana or this recruitment, perhaps you have some answers or some information about what happened actually on the ground.
Hi. Thank you very much, Prof. Dato. A very, very interesting question. Last year, we had this Penjana Kerjaya with Perkeso, and then they had My Future Jobs. And DOSM, the Department of Statistics, they have always looked at the criteria of whether you're employed or not. Barometer is always, was there AWSP or per queso payment. You know, if there is a charoman to per queso, that means you are employed. If there's no charoman, you are not employed. See, so employability doesn't mean this guy is earning money. And if he's not employed, there's no charoman, it doesn't mean he is not earning money. And you'll be surprised, at the amount of people who do not do the charoman, and yet they are still living quite well. So again, that brings to the question of what kind of ecosystem. There is an ecosystem out there that we are not connected to. I'll give you one particular example. This is very true when it comes to the young people. And that's the development of Web 3.0. It comes very naturally for the young. We've been playing games. There's NFT games right now. When it comes to blockchain for currency, you have got cryptocurrencies. Now, there's an whole area of disruption that's taking place, that part of the economy. We find that institutions are not equipped nor attached to that industry. A lot happened last year. I saw young people playing games just 4 hours to 6 hours a day, and they can earn between 2,000 to 3,000 a month. We have got staff, of companies that employ 200 people. They had to retrench. But instead of retrenching, they got their salesmen, automotive salesmen. They got no jobs to do. Ask them to play crypto games, okay? They are able to get income of 2,000 to 3,000 to last through the pandemic. None of these are actually recorded by DOSM. And I've got trainers that's doing this kind of work, looking for jobs for them. And after 3 months, he said, I don't think I want to do this, being involved in upskilling and reskilling and getting jobs anymore. I said, why not? He says, well, they have found a new way of making money, which is in Web 3.0. So this is an area that's really so-called disrupting the job market. This wasn't that prevalent in 2020, but it became very prevalent in 2021, and this is one of the phenomena that I observed as a result of post-pandemic, the rise of Web3, and probably there's a little bit of correction in the past 1-2 months with the fall of crypto and all that. Yeah, but aside from all the fluff, make no mistake about it, this is something that's very real. It's a new ecosystem that's coming up, and we should always be aware of it and play to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bruce. I think we have almost reached the time. But just a short conclusion. I think looking around, especially at this exhibition, I feel good because people are coming to see the book exhibition, and they are looking at education as important. Even though we are looking at the nature or the scenario of job opportunities that have changed, but it's all up to them. Whether they want to go to the traditional employment, entrepreneurship, or gig, or looking at the multinational companies for job. Again, it's all up to them. As a university prof, we just provide them with quality education, opportunity for them to enhance their potential so that they become a useful member of the community. So I think with that, I would like to pass the session back to Kees for closing.
All right, guys, thank you so much. We have a wonderful session. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, David. Thank you, Mushtaq. Thank you, Prof. Khairuddin. Thank you. I hope all of you are blessed by this session. Thank you very much.